Yeah, when you were
I was
born.
born in Grand Rapids, Michigan, to a 16-year-old girl who wasn't married, and my mother, my adopted
That
mother,
was Lizzie.
Lizzie,
Yeah.
came over to Michigan to visit her brother. And while she was over there, she told him that she wanted to adopt a child.
Mm.
And she told her brother that, and he told her he knew where a place was that they called a Lane Inn Hospital. That was where young girls went.
Mm.
He had children and didn't want them and wanted to put them out for adoption. And so he went over there, took her over there, and they picked me out. I was 2 weeks old, and
Where did they live then? They
they,
didn't
they
live
lived
there.
in Grand Rapids.
Yeah, but where did Grandma live?
Grandma and Grandpa lived down at the orchard.
Oh yeah.
No, they lived there where Uncle Elmer Benedict lives.
Oh okay.
And so then they brought me home, and we lived there 6 months, and then we moved where the orchard is. And we set out those trees, and
What was there before the trees were there?
those fewers that lived down there where walkers live now.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
what on that 10 acres there?
yeah,
What was there at that time?
nothing. It was just brush.
Oh yeah.
And he cleared it all and planted those trees.
Cleared it all with a horse.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he cleared up until the top of the hill, and the rest was just woods, like Krieger's Woods is now.
Mhm.
And then after that, he planted those little bitty trees. They were only about so high, and uh, he went around the country to all the farmers and bought calves to butcher.
Mhm.
All the dairy farmers, and you got calves, and you bring them home and butcher them and put them on the train and send them to Chicago for people to eat.
And he
And
got paid for that, or he got
yeah,
a share of the
well,
meat?
he got paid for them
Mm.
from the commission house down in
Mhm.
Chicago. And then after he'd get cattle and butcher them and sell the meat around to different farmers. They'd buy a big steer and
Was that out
and
to the east side of Grandma's house there, where you said that there was always so much blood in the
yeah,
ground that nothing would grow?
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
And he had to, well, like this kind of weather, he had to butcher them late at night and leave them hang overnight to cool, and then put them on the train in a hurry in the morning before they spoil.
Hmm.
And then
So he had to go to what, Woodruff
Woodworth to
to
Woodworth
catch.
to catch a train, and they'd put them on there, and then he did that all the time I can remember. And then his father died and left him that 70 acres over there by Elmer's.
Mm-hmm.
And then they started this truck gardening and uh, raising oats and corn, and they raised cabbage and potatoes. And well, then after
Where did you, when you had gone to school,
I
did you
went
go
to
to
that
that
little old one-room school up on 45
45 and C?
and C,
Hmm.
yeah. Well, there was 56 kids in school and one teacher. And I went there through 8th grade, and then I went to the normal school in Union Grove that was a teacher's college. And I
Mm-hmm.
went there 3 years, and then I taught school a year.
So you went right from the grade school
Yeah,
right
when
to
I
that
was only
normal school?
15 to the normal school. And
Hmm.
then I went to the normal school was supposed to be equal to 2 years of high school and 1 year college.
Hmm.
And then after I taught school 1 year, I hated it.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
because I had a little dinky school. There wasn't but I think 13 kids in the school because it was in a Catholic neighborhood, and most of the kids went to the Catholic
Where was
school.
the school?
On Highway 45, north of Paris Corners.
Hmm.
And then I had, I think, two kids in first grade, and two in second grade, and two in fourth grade. And I don't know, I have one or two in seventh grade and one in 8th grade. I don't know if that comes out right or not. But anyhow,
More or less.
yeah. Um, anyhow, it was just a little one. It was more like tutoring. I didn't
Yeah.
spend all the time with one kid.
Mm-hmm.
And one kid was a little Polish kid that didn't speak any English, and his father didn't either.
And you had to try to teach him?
Uh-huh.
That must have been tough during English class.
Well, it was, but he was a nice little kid. And then his father brought his brother down. He wasn't even supposed to be going to school, but he brought him down so he could learn English too. Well, we had more like a play school, and we had a sandbox, and they did all kinds of things, and more like kindergarten work. Well, then...
Tell us about when you bashed your finger in the stove.
Oh, yeah, when the county supervisor came. I went to put a big chunk of wood in the big whole heater. It was a great, huge, big black stove, and I put a great big chunk of wood in there. And just as I put it in, the door to the smoke screen fell down and bashed me right over the thumb and turned it all black. And here this inspector was there, and I was supposed to be teaching the kids a poem. And my finger was so sore, it was just throbbing, and I couldn't think of anything but how my finger hurt. And but he didn't say much. He just made a few notes, and then he left. And it was about 6 months before my thumb healed up. And I stayed with a lady that lived just up the street, and her boy that was in 4th grade. And he was a brain. He read every book in the country and every book I could find for him. And then I taught there a year, and that was enough. I wanted to go back to school and get more education so I could teach in high school. So then I went to Kenosha High School on the bus. They had a North Shore bus that ran in there, and there was a whole bunch of kids from Bristol and Pleasant Prairie. Here, your towel was going. And they picked up a whole busload, and we went in, and I finished my 4 years.
2 years, yeah.
Yeah, my 2 years.
So
I had 4 years. I had to take a lot of extra subjects because when I went to the normal school, I had a lot of stuff that they didn't count. Well, then after I finished the high school, I got a job in the bookstore there in Kenosha, and I stayed with my girlfriend that was a classmate in high school.
What was her name?
Dorothy Bond.
Is that the one that she later on got killed?
Yes, later on, she was a caseworker, and she's the one that brought Joey and Eddie out for me to take care of.
Welfare.
She was working for the welfare, and she brought Joey and Eddie out for me to take care of, and she later got a job out at Sparta, and she was on her way out there, and another girl was with her, and her mother had told her to be sure not to pick up any hitchhikers on the way, and she said she wouldn't. But when she was going along, there was a GI side of the road looking for a ride, and so they stopped and gave him a ride. And after they got down the road a ways and it got dark, he pulled a gun on them and took them off in the woods and raped the both of them and killed them. And
but when you knew her, you were both living in an apartment there, right?
Yeah, no, we were living in her mother's house. I lived in her mother's house. And then after I worked there at the bookstore, I found a place to stay where I could get meals, and I went there, and the lady was also boarding men that were working on the YMCA, and Pa was there working and putting up the steel work, and he and 2 or 3 of his buddies drove there from Milwaukee, and they worked to put up the steel on the YMCA, and but they ate their meals at this lady's house. And
where were they staying?
And they stayed on 60th Street. I don't remember the name of the place now.
It was
just a home.
Yeah.
It wasn't a hotel. And so then after we'd met several times in the evening for supper, his buddy asked me for a date. And his name was Pat McManus, and he was very, very Irish. And I didn't go much for him. I thought he was a bit too old for me, and I asked Pa if he wasn't married, and Pa says, no, he isn't married, but his wife isn't. So then Pa asked me for a date, and
Opposite way too.
we went out and we dated quite a lot. That was in January, and then we dated right along, and then he got another job in Milwaukee, but we still kept on dating, and then in March we decided we were going to get married, and he got an apartment in Milwaukee, and right across the street from where he had been living, and it was up on the third floor with a walk up, an old brownstone walk up, and we lived there until Decoration Day. Then we went to Pekin, Illinois. That was right south of Peoria, and we stayed down there, and he worked on the coal bridge that I was telling you about that when we saw that when we went by.
Yeah.
For Sam Insel. He was a coal and oil baron and power. Anyhow, he worked there until Labor Day, and then
what year do you figure that is?
It was 1929.
Mm-hmm.
No, so, we were married in 1930. It must have been 31.
So that was right at the beginning of the Depression.
Yeah. Well, then he got back up to Milwaukee, and they were busy then with the courthouse, and he worked there. He was the guy that gave the signals to the man that was hoisting the great big blocks of stone that were the building's exterior, and he had to signal the crane operator just where to set them. And I used to go down the street and watch him, and I would wave at him, and all the girls thought he was flirting with him. So then we worked on that most of the till I think it was about in October. And that was done. Then he worked on the Northwestern Mutual Insurance building for a while, and then there was no work. And then in November we had Lauren, and he was without work. He went down to the union headquarters day after day, no work, no work, no work. And
so that would have been in 1930.
1930, and then we came down to Grandpa's, and Grandpa wanted him to stay with them and help him with the truck gardening and the farming. And so we moved. All we had was, well, that that trunk that you've got, and then a couple of suitcases. That's about all we had. We didn't have any furniture. We always lived in furnished apartments. And then we worked there. He worked all that winter fixing up that house where I lived, where we lived. They moved, the people that had lived there made a mess of it. So he practically rebuilt it, put a new floor in, and did everything. And then, let's see, I forgot now. After that, we just kept on working with him on the truck farming until he'd go back every once in a while to Milwaukee, and he belonged to the union and everything, and still there was no work. And so he finally gave up, and he just went to farming. Well, then after I got to, I think Elma was she wasn't in school yet. Lauren was in school. A girlfriend of mine brought me out some kids to take care of for the probation department.
Yeah.
I had Eddie and Joey.
How old were they when they?
Well, Eddie was 8 and Joey was 2. And I took care of them and got all of $4 a week for taking care of them.
$4 each?
And you had to buy food and everything?
Yes, I had to buy all their food, but the probation department bought their clothes and all their medical stuff. And Eddie had a very bad hernia, and we had to trot him into the hospital and have that taken care of. He had very bad tonsils. He had to have them taken out. And his eyes were so bad he couldn't see the blackboard, so he was failing in school. And so we had to take him and have glasses fitted for him. And Joey was not very bright. He was satisfied to sit in the middle of the floor with two clothespins and play for hours. And then after Eddie got to going to school and could see why, he picked right up, and when he graduated from high school, he was 6th in his class, which we thought was remarkable for the start.
What year was that about?
Well, it was when, Lauren didn't even go to school yet then. So, let's see, he was born in 30. So, about 19. Well, there was a little mix-up in it, because they told us that when they brought him out that he was 12, but I had to write to the church where he was baptized in Chicago and found out that he was only 8. So it got a little bit mixed up. But anyhow, then we had them until Eddie was out of high school, and then Joey was about 8, 10, no, more like 10. And I had Phil by then, and was pregnant with Jerry, and that got to be too much, and so they came and took Joey and took him to another lady. And Eddie graduated from high school and went away to work on his own. And he comes back to see me once in a while, and he lives at Twin Lakes. And Joey lives in Burlington, and he's got 6 kids. And he's also an alcoholic, just like his father was. And even that little bit of money helped out, because that was cash, and we raised all our own stuff to eat, so that helped buy flour and sugar. And one time I remember I went to go shopping for Christmas, and I had $1.75.
What did you buy? Do you remember?
Yes, I do. I bought Lauren a box of Tinker Toys, and I bought Elma a little bitty flat iron, and Pa made her an ironing board. And then the county brought Eddie and Joey presents. I had to go and pick them up, but they got them presents. And we had a pretty thin Christmas, I'll tell you. Although we had lots to eat. We raised geese, and we raised ducks, and we raised turkeys, and we raised all kinds of garden stuff. And we weren't hungry at all. We had our own cow, and we had more milk and butter than we knew what to do with. And and we had some real good neighbors down the street, Mr. and Mrs. Weidman. They used to come up and always spend the holidays with us. And she never wanted to entertain, but she'd help furnish, so she'd bring all kinds of goodies, and the whole table would be full. And let's see.
So you had mentioned that when Uncle Frank, right?
Yeah.
Had died.
Uncle Frank Roberts.
I'm sorry, Roberts.
He was my father's brother-in-law. His sister was Uncle Frank's wife. And then they had this one boy, Charlie. He was a year older than I. And we played together over in his big farm over there in Woodworth. Mm-hmm. That great big huge house. And they
on the right side as you go up the road there. Yeah. Okay.
And we used to go over there to play, and they had hired help that lived there too. So the Silsdorfs, and Emily was a girl about my age, and so there was Grace and I and Emily that used to go with him. Oh, and Beatrice Benedict, that was Ralph Benedict's daughter. And he used to take the 4 of us girls to Chicago to visit another girl that had been there in Woodworth, and we'd gotten acquainted with, and she moved and went to Chicago to live. So.
How old do you figure you were then?
I was about 14. And he took us to shows in the museum. And
did you take the train down?
Yeah, we always took the train, and Grace got sick every time. She'd hardly get out of the train yard, but she was in the bathroom puking. And then after we got to the city, we had to go on the little railroad in from Woodward. But when we got into the city, they shut the bathrooms, so she puked out the window.
Okay.
So finally, after she did that a couple times, he wouldn't take her anymore. But then after that, we had 4-H club, and we would go over there and have meetings and play and do our games and our projects and play in the barn and hay and all that sort of stuff. He had a huge farm. I think it was better than 400 acres and about 4 houses. And then the saddest part was when he got sick. He evidently had heart trouble and kidney trouble because he bloated all up and filled with fluid, and he died. And then
Who was it that you said that used to come down there and whitewash the? That was.
Well, that was Uncle George. That was
George.
Grandma's brother. He lived at Wilmot, and he went around and whitewashed the barns for the men, the cow barns. And then he'd stop by our house for lunch, and the pay for the lunch was to whitewash the chicken house.
Yeah.
And but then he died, or no, well, he got married again after he had a daughter and a wife, and he got married again after they died. She had a brain tumor, and she was only, I think, 10. She died. But then he got married again, and his wife is still up at Whitewater, his second wife. I hear from her quite often. Her birthday and mine are the same, and we send each other a card. And then let's see, after I got to be out of 8th grade, I went to the normal school in Union Grove to learn to be a school teacher in the one-room school.
We did that.
We did that, huh? Well, then where did we leave off?
Well, you
taught in the one-room school.
Yeah, you were talking about when Phil, it started when Phil was a baby.
Oh.
And then you told us all about the kids. Didn't you at one time too have a girl that was not the welfare?
Yeah, that little Helen.
Yeah, she was retarded too,
yeah,
wasn't she?
she was retarded, and then she ended up at the state home. When after I got pregnant with Jerry, we decided that was enough for me to take care of. So they took her to the state home up at Union Grove. And somebody told me that when she was about 20, she died. And otherwise, when I had her, she was healthy enough, but she was mentally short. She learned to talk and that, but she never could have gone to school. I took her in for examination, and a couple of doctors decided that she'd never be able to go to public school. But she was a cute little kid. And then
what year was it when Grandpa died?
The same year Bill was born, 1950. I think it was. Alma was pregnant with Bill when Grandpa died. And he had a bad heart for a long time, and just a few days before that, I had taken him out to Dr. DeWitt, and he had checked him over, and he knew he had a bad heart, but he didn't think he was going to die that soon.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot they could do then anyhow.
And he got up one morning and was waiting for Grandma to fix breakfast, and just laid back on the couch and died. And that was the way he would have preferred it, too, because he hated to be sick. He never was down.
Yeah.
He was always active. Well, it was the same way with Pa. He was, too.
Yeah.
But then Grandma was there by herself, and Grace took over. She took over all of her affairs, and Grace was living in Michigan at that time. But then they moved around so much. They were in Michigan, and they were up
yeah.
at White Bear Lake, and they were in Pittsburgh, and oh, I don't know. Well, she finally ended up in Ohio.
Yeah.
Well, then her husband died too. That Everett, you remember him?
Mm-hmm.
And she brought him back for burial over there at Wesley.
Right.
And the kids were all there then to the funeral, but then afterward, why she was there alone, and she went to class reunion out at Waukesha at Carroll College, and met this old schoolmate that she had dated before she was married, and they hit it off, and he had lost his wife a couple of years before, and they hit it off, and the first thing you know, well, we got an invitation to their wedding. So Elm and Jean and I went, and they had quite a to-do in his church. He was a Methodist, she was a Presbyterian, and they had a nice wedding, and then they had a reception afterward at the church. And then he left with her and went to Ohio, and I don't know what he did with his place or if he had one.
Do you know if they still have in Kenosha? If they still have the farmers market every?
Sure, it's open now.
Yeah.
Right today.
Mm.
Same
yeah,
place.
Saturday. Still at Columbus
Same
Park
place.
and Saturday.
On Saturday. Yeah, they had the ad in the paper the other day, and of course there's an awful lot of the guys that went then are long gone, like Oscar Nelson and a bunch of them old guys. They're all gone.
Well, they must have found a new generation to take over.
Well, Delbert goes with I imagine he's in there now with Sweet Corn. And Roxy's the one that's had the hard life, and Delbert's wife. She's had to take care of all of Delbert's kids, which are all good for pup. She's got one girl there now with a illegitimate, illegitimate child. She's living there with her mother, with Roxy. Delbert's been married 3 times.
Well, she must be your age, isn't she?
Who? Roxy's older than I am.
Really? Still taking care of grandkids.
And she's all bent over. She looks like a person that was walking with a cane. And you know, her father was just exactly like that.
Yeah.
She comes down to the senior center.
Well, Delbert owns the old 70 acres.
Yeah, and then he built a new house up toward the front. They tore the old house down when they fixed it.
Oh, really? He has a house there on the land now?
Not on the 70, up further, by 50.
Oh, I see.
Where the barn was. They tore the whole works down. And one of his boys went on the lam, and nobody knew where in the heck he was. And finally he came back, and he was staying with Roxy, and I don't know, he got into all kinds of trouble, and he was in and out of jail all the time. And then he was on the lam again. I don't know where he is now. And Shirley's kids were just as bad. She was married to a Whitmire, and he had 3 kids, and lived down by Waukegan, and got a divorce from him, and her kids are all in trouble all the time. But then now she's married to John Davis, and up here in Bristol. And they built there where the other house burned down. He built a new house there, and Shirley and Roxy are living there. Or Shirley and Delbert's kid.
But when was it that back then, when for a while you were working there, you used to work at the mink ranch, fleshing out mink.
Yeah.
You worked at the one at Krieger's for a couple of years.
Oh, yeah.
That must have been, I can vaguely remember that.
Yeah,
that must have been.
That was when Jean and Elma were dating.
Really? Was that far back?
Yeah. Yeah, because I remember her fixing dinner there, and Jean came for Thanksgiving dinner. And then
you worked there for a while.
See, that was in November. In December they did that all the time. Well, then Jean and Elma were married in February that year.
And then after that, you went over and you worked
I
at the
worked
one over in
at Sears.
George Lake.
Yeah. And did I tell you I saw that old Maldy that used to work
Yeah,
over
you
there?
told me.
And he was so nice to me, and said that he told you better get busy and help build that bathroom and put in a bathroom before Ma goes over the George Lake and lives with Maldy. And Maldy came down to the senior center, and I knew him, but he didn't know me.
Yeah.
He swore it wasn't me because I had brown hair.
A few years ago, yeah.
Well, that was quite a few years.
And then after you did that, you tried working. Did you work for a while in a machine shop somewhere?
Yeah, one day.
One day. And
with
then you
Jeanette
went to
Green.
And then you went to
and
Regal.
And then I went Mildred Buzzy, and I went to Regal.
And what year you figure that was, more or less?
Huh?
That must have been.
Well,
1950 something.
55 or so, and then we decided to build a new school, and I got on the school board. I was treasurer of the school board, and we got the building built, and you were about in
5th grade.
4th grade.
Yeah.
Because you remember you were in 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, and there were so darn many kids. Where my switches are.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Those are hers.
Oh, really?
She sends me a Christmas card every year, and she sent me a picture of those dogs. And, well, then, after, Mildred and Jeanette Hartman worked down there, too. And I used to drive, and then Jeanette quit. And Mildred and I drove. And, well, one morning she came up and was all shook up because there was a note on her table that David and Barb had taken off to get married, on the Mississippi to get married. And here just recently, Dave and Barb had a wedding for their youngest daughter, and I mean a real floozy wedding, in church and all the rigmarole and the big banquet up at Bristol Oaks. And I was talking to Mildred afterward and thought what a contrast it was to the way Barb and Dave got married, ran off in his old truck. And we were scared to death they'd freeze to death before they ever got to Mississippi.
Laugh about it now.
Yeah, but it wasn't laughing. She was crying. And his mother was about to have 4 kittens, too.
Do you ever hear any more from any of those people at Regal?
Yeah, Eleanor Scora still works down there.
You're kidding, really?
Yeah, she still works down there. And Anne Frank worked down there till here just recently.
Eleanor must be retirement age, at least.
Well, I would think she is, but I don't know. And her mother's still living. They still live over there in the same place with her. And I talked to her not too long ago. I forgot what it was.
She was a supervisor down there when I was there.
She was
foreman or something.
Yeah, she was like a foreman over the whole department. And that Danny that was in there that was such a bugger, he got fired from there.
Man.
And
what was the woman that was in charge?
Miss Miller.
Yeah.
And the rumor was that they lived down there on the backside of Antioch, where there's a lake back there. I can't think what lake it is, but anyhow, that they lived back there. But
she wasn't married, was she?
No, he wasn't either. He was gay. And I don't
Danny? Yeah.
Danny and that, what was that kid's name? He didn't have any hair. They were both gay. And Eleanor Scora was all hopped up over him, but he wouldn't even give her a tumble, so then either one of them ever get married. I saw Danny in the post office down there one day, not too long ago.
Did he recognize you?
Yeah. But, see, I worked there for 12 years. And then, one day when he got a little bit too bossy for me to suit, I just went and took my things out of my locker and punched out and left. I didn't even tell him goodbye. And Miss Miller called me up and 2 or 3 times and wanted me to come back. And She even paid my insurance for two months because she thought I'd come back. And I told her no, I wasn't coming back and work for that son of a gun again for nothing. And I went right away down to Beauty View and put in for a job, and did I know how to run a sewing machine?
I guess you did.
Well, heck, it was one just exactly like the one I had. And he wanted me to sew the trim on the shades on the scallops and, along the stick that goes in the hem, you know, and sew trim on them.
That's when they were down on Lake George.
Yeah. And so I said, sure, I knew how to run. Well, show me how to thread the machine. So I went over and threaded the machine. Well, come in, we'll use you. And I went in there, and they were so nice to me that it was just wonderful. And they all were, and the boss, even our foreman, was a Jew. But he was just as nice as he could be. I bet if I went over there today, I'd get a big greeting. I went over there a few times and mailed a package for ups, and anytime. And then Jeff was the boss. The older men retired. One of them went to California, and the others in Florida. And one of his boys lived downstairs in the apartment in the back for quite a while. His wife kicked him out. He had 2 kids, and they used to come up there and visit him. I saw him every once in a while. But I worked there for 11 years. And sewed hems and sewed scallops. It was really interesting because each order was different. It wasn't like working in the factory where you did the same thing all the time. Yeah, I still see those lamps around. Yeah. They're probably making the same ones. I'll never forget the time we painted those little dogs that were salt and pepper shakers. They looked like that Victor ad, you know, with the little dog with the black. Yeah. Well, we had to paint his eyes and his ears and his mouth, and they came down in pairs, and that darn old Danny stand there with a stopwatch, and, well, you did real good today. You did 500. And then the next day, well, you did real good yesterday. You did 1,000. Tomorrow do 2,000. And stand there with a stopwatch over you. And if you had to go to the bathroom, God help you, could just sit there and wet your pants, because they didn't approve of any breaks, you know, for bathroom trips. And but at Beauty View, it was all different. Right away when I started there, they started a profit sharing plan. I got in on the very, very beginning of it. I think they started in November. And you got a share and when I got done there, I had $2,700 coming. And well, I didn't want to take it. They wanted me to continue on a part-time basis because I was retired. And well, in fact, one month I lost my Social Security because they paid me for Thanksgiving. And then I was over. But so then they talked me into working over, and then he'd pay me with a personal check when I didn't punch the card. And I worked there quite a while that way until Pa decided to retire. And then he decided to retire when they built the new school and moved out down there. Then he didn't want to climb all those steps and everything over there. And so when he quit, I quit. So then he went hunting a van like Gene. He wanted something that we could go and do some traveling. So he went down to Antioch, and in the Chevy garage down there, he found one. And one day he came home and he said, "I want you to come down and take a look at something." And I didn't know what he's talking about. So we went down there, and here he shows me this van. He says, "Would you think you like this?" And he'd already bought it. That's all we're done. And I said, "Well, it's just about what we wanted." And we added a cupboard. In fact, that cupboard in the bedroom was in it. He made that, and we went. Or no, he didn't either. We bought it, and he had to repair it. It had some flaws in it. Anyhow, we fixed it up, and we had a portable stove and a potty, and we fixed it all up, and we went, I think, in every state park in Wisconsin. And
yeah, I knew you traveled around quite a bit.
I don't think there's many that where we were camping that was losing. We were there where the Wisconsin River and Mississippi come together, and all over. And then we went down a whole bunch down in Indiana. And oh, and I forgot to tell you about after we had our golden wedding. You know, that was the same year. We went to California.
Yeah.
We went all.
That was on a bus trip, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you flew out
We
there.
flew, and then everything was all planned. Lauren and Elma got their heads together, planned all that. We went into Los Angeles, and then we visited. I don't know. We stayed on the Queen Mary, and we did a whole bunch of stuff. And then we went down into Mexico from San Diego, and then we. Every day was something different. You could, from the hotel, they had a choice where you could just say where you wanted to go, and then the bus picked you up, and you went with the group that was going there. One day we wanted to go to Catalina Island, and the bus driver told me, he says, if you're going there, you better take 2 puke bags, because it's awful rough. So we changed our mind and went to, what was it, Knott's Berry Farm instead. And so you had a lot of choices. But we were 4 days on the Queen Mary. I wasn't too crazy about that because that was like sleeping on a real narrow bunk, and there was just a dresser in between and then another little narrow bunk and then a little tiny bathroom.
Yeah, we saw
all
all
there was
that weed going on there.
But did you go way down in the bottom?
Yeah.
And see the big propeller?
Yeah, yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did too.
We had got there kind of late, but we managed to get everything.
Well, with the 4 days, we had plenty of chance.
Yeah.
And we went way up on the top deck, but we ate mostly in the captain's dining room because the king and the queen's ones were too expensive. I was glad we got that in before Bob got sick. And then before that, we had gone to Hawaii, and Lauren had gone, and he'd been telling about how great it was, you know. And I told Pa one day, I said, what are you going to do? Wait until we're all both so old and feeble we can't do it? And I guess that kind of hit him, because anyhow, he came in from working outside, and he says, let's go to Union Grove and get some tickets to go to Hawaii. So we did. And we were there for 12 days and 4 different islands. And Lauren had coached us and given us some books and stuff, and that was all prepared too. It was all scheduled ahead of time. All we had to do was pack our bags and have them by the door.